Welcome to another edition of the Wolfpacker show. I guess they want us to start calling it the Wolfpacker show. So I call it the MC Square show because we got Matt Carter, Matt Coe. Talking some NC State basketball. Got a lot to talk about. Matt Coe, eager to get into this podcast, doing his best DJ Bones impersonation with the shades. In case you're wondering what he's doing, he didn't get his eye dilated or anything like that. If you're watching the podcast, which is a great segue, you can watch these podcasts on YouTube. Subscribe to our Wolfpacker YouTube channel. We're getting very, very, very close to 2,000, which is awesome. So let's get over the hump here before March Madness ends. You can also listen to this podcast wherever you get your podcast: Apple, Spotify, Google. Wherever you get it, we're there. So please add us to your list of subscribe podcast, rate and review it. A nice review would be very happy for all of us. Leave a comment as well. All that helps us out. Be sure to subscribe to our website if you haven't already, thewolfpacker.com. You saw over the weekend a big commitment. We'll talk about that here at some point. If you're a member of thewolfpacker.com, you saw it coming for a couple of weeks. So just one of the benefits of subscribing to the website, just $29.99 through August. That's a special right now. They're running out of these specials, by the way. They're getting less and less attractive. So sooner or later, you're just going to have to pay up the full price to subscribe. So jump in now. And then last but not least, please check out our sponsor, rogeshop.com, ROG as in girl, UESHOP.com, for your natural cannabis needs. Very legal products to help you take care of the sleep deprivation, or if you're dealing with anxiety or chronic pain. Who in life doesn't have one of those three things, right? So this is if you tried some stuff and nothing seemed to work, maybe give this a try. This is a husband and wife small outfit. The husband is a disabled veteran who had dealt with his own issues that this helped him out with, and so he's a full believer in it. And they're on our message board. If you ever have any questions, they also have a live chat feature on their website in which there's an actual human being on the other end. It's not some chat bot or whatever they're called now, filling you in with the information. So give them a check out. They've been big supporters of the Wolfpacker.com. We appreciate them. And hopefully you can show them some love. So got that all in under 3 minutes. That's my target. I did well. It's been a couple of days. NC State beat North Carolina. That's always fun. I guess we're going to start with, I know Matt had some numbers he really wanted to dive into, so I'm going to start with Jarkel Joyner here. 29 points, tied his season high with his performance against Coppin State in Reynolds Coliseum. Shout out Coppin State, finally won another game and beat the top team in the MEAC on Monday. So, Matt, you've been looking at it. Where does he rank among the best transfers in your opinion? We'll start ACC and then branch out from there. Where do you think he ranks?
Well, I think, first of all, kudos for keeping a straight face because I look ridiculous, but shout out DJ Burns. So I think, honestly,
no offense, Matt. He pulls off the look a lot better than you
yeah, no, he definitely does. He definitely does. He's a legend for sure. Yeah. I'll say this. I think that if you were to take Tyree Appleby from Wake Forest, I'm not gonna discredit that. I think that you're not necessarily wrong if you want to take Appleby, but I think that Jarkel Joyner is one of the main reasons that this team is so good. I think that in order to be one of the best transfers, you also have to change the trajectory of what the season was a year ago. And obviously NC State has an easier challenge with that because last season was so bad. They had a lot of wins to make up for. But I just was, after the game, I kept thinking to myself, if the transfer portal is going to be this entity in the college basketball world, maybe we should make a all transfer first team or an all transfer second team or whatever. And so it got me thinking. And so I was doing some late night, researching, and I saw from The Athletic, they posted a article on January 25th. So not really that far along ago, almost a month, right, of their all transfer team. And their first two guards on the first team were, I hope I'm saying his name right, Soli Boom from Xavier, and then Kendrick Davis from Memphis. Really great players. I'm going to read off some stats for you, and then I'm going to give you guys what Jarkel Joyner is doing. And you're going to see how close he really is and how impactful he really is. So Boom for Xavier is averaging 16.2, 4.0 rebounds, 4.7 assists. He's shooting 45.6 field goal percentage. Really awesome numbers there. I've gotten to watch a little bit of Xavier. I can't say I've watched a ton, but he's definitely been a great one. Last year, Xavier was 23-13. This year, right now, they're 20-7. That's a 63.9 win percentage to a 74.1 win percentage. So really good numbers there is the reason that Xavier's been so good all season. Kendrick Davis making the move to Memphis. I said it when he did it. I thought that was a really weird move. I think he probably could have went plenty of other places. But, it's working out for him in Memphis, and maybe Memphis is a tournament team. We'll see. But this year he's averaging 21.3 points per game, which is actually 12th in the nation. He is averaging 3.7 rebounds, 5.8 assists, which is 16th in the nation. Last year, Memphis was 22-11. This year, they're 20-7. That's a 66-point win percentage. Transfer that over to a 74.1. So Memphis and Xavier having similar seasons. Now let's get to Jarkel Joyner. All right, long story short. Jarkel's averages 16.1 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, 3.7 assists, and he's shooting 42.4 field goal percentage. Obviously, last year was terrible for NC State. They were 11-21. Right now, they're 21-7. They went from a 34.4 win percentage to a 75% win percentage. That's the highest of the three. And out of the three, Jarkel Joyner has only 43 turnovers on the season. Davis has 85. Boom has 55. And Jarkel Joyner has a 2.35 assist to turnover ratio, which is 48th in the nation. Boom is 55th, and Davis is all the way at 150. I get that, NC State maybe isn't the talk of the town when it comes to college basketball, but there's no denying it. I think that Jarkel Joyner should 100% be in the top 10, top 5, whatever category you want, but he's in that list of one of the best transfers in the entire nation.
Yeah. I got Tyree Appleby's numbers too. 18.5 points, 3.4 rebounds, 6.3 assists. I think it's a toss-up between Joyner and Appleby. Appleby made for best transfer in the ACC. I can't think off the top of my head. I'm trying to go through the teams on the fly. Nigel Pack has kind of picked it up lately for Miami, and he's a tremendous shooter.
Yeah. Norchad Omier has been solid. I'm not surprised by his numbers. I think Vanderplas has – I was expecting a little bit more, but he's still really, really solid too. There's a couple. There's definitely a couple.
But Shirley has picked it up lately for Virginia Tech. But I really think, you're really down to a two-man. Well, you got the Pitt guy. What's his name?
Jamarius Burton.
No, Blake Henson.
No.
Blake Henson.
Yeah.
Averaging 15.5 points per game. But, the difference between Appleby and Joyner, I think it's one of those two is the best in the ACC.
Yeah.
Appleby has to do it for Wake Forest. Right? Like, what else? Who else is going to score? Monsanto is an unbelievable shooter. The other transfer they got that's a big guy is a very nice complimentary piece. But that team goes as Appleby goes. I think for NC State, Joyner is kind of sharing the wealth, if you will, with DJ Burns and Taquavion Smith. I don't know Memphis and Xavier well enough to know, are those guys also sharing the wealth with some other guys on their team? So that's just something you have to take into consideration.
Definitely, and I think well with Kendrick Davis' numbers, his usage rate I'm sure is through the roof. Averaging those types of numbers and that many turnovers, the ball is probably constantly in his hands.
Yeah.
But I like that you said that NC State doesn't necessarily have to have Jarkel play like this. That's the beauty of this team is that they don't. Last year, it was if one of the three didn't, have a great game, then they were probably going to lose. Now you've got 4 or 5, even if you want to argue 6 guys that can get you some points and some buckets. Uh, it just so happens that if Jarkel plays like that, and if T just gives you a little bit of something, I mean, this team is going to be really, really hot in March for sure. I won't say impossible to stop. I was a little reluctant to say that, but they're a damn good team when Jarkel is playing like that.
Yeah.
I just think that if there's going to be some type of transfer list, I mean, like you said, Appleby and Joyner, I think, need to be on that list. But for me personally, I just think that winning, going out and getting a player that you really want on your team for the next season, there's a reason you went out and got him, and we're seeing it with Jarkel.
Yeah. I like what you just said there, too, about winning. The Carolina win was kind of another example of yet another game that NC State won in a different way, in a different fashion, and quite frankly, probably not a way that they have won in years past. I mean, definitely not last. You go back to look at the Wake Forest win in Winston-Salem. You go back further, Vanderbilt in Chicago. You got the Carolina win this past Sunday. These are all examples of games. Georgia Tech, even a crappy team like Georgia Tech at home recently. Years past, NC State stubs its toe or blows an opportunity in those games. And that's probably the biggest difference with this year's team. This year, they find ways to win. And it's almost like this refreshing attitude, I think, among NC State fans of, we can win a game like that.
Yeah. No, they're winning ugly, in some of these games. And sometimes you got to, not every game's going to be pretty. This team predicates themselves. They really, their identity is shooting the 3 and guarding the 3. They did a solid job guarding, but really not that great shooting, especially in the second half. They started out 0 for 5 until Jack Clark finally hit a 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I believe Jarkel was the only other player to hit a 3. But they finished 2 for 2 after starting 0 for 5 in the second half. So winning without even playing to your strengths is impressive enough, and to do it against your rivals. So that's why I'm having this glass of Tar Heel tears, because it was a hell of a weekend. NC State got plenty of wins.
Yeah, shout out to the ice hockey team. By the way,
how cool is that?
The Ice Pack completing the sweep of UNC this weekend. Women's basketball rallied from 10 down with 4+ minutes to go. Outscored UNC by 21 points if you count overtime.
Mm-hmm.
The last 9 minutes of action. Wrestling won 8 out of 10 matches against UNC. Just obliterated them. Not sure why the one wrestler for UNC who did win, he's a national champion, so he's supposed to win. And he does some kind of weird celebration where he's like taking the head off the wolf or something like that.
Cuts the head off the wolf. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was kind of cool. It's
creative.
Nice.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's nice to see something other than horns down. But when he did it, he kind of did horns down. It's different. It's not. Yeah. It's not this. It's that. So if you're gonna do it right. But I did like it. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, but you're getting your butt kicked for the 10th straight time. That would be like I don't know, what could you do to UNC? It'd be like NC State not having beaten Miami 10 straight times in a basketball game, and they're about to lose for the 11th time, and you hit a 3 at the end of the game, and you flash the U down because you only lost by 9 points instead of 12. I mean, what the heck? You know what I mean? So then you got the men's game, and then you got the hockey team. So
yeah,
good time.
It was a good weekend.
Yeah. And by the way, I kind of want to point this out. I've seen a lot of chatter about UNC that's not a terrible team. I want people to like. I feel like some people are. It almost feels like they're downgrading the NC State win almost because Carolina lost.
I don't know about you, man, but on my drives home from the games, I got about an hour and a half drive. And that entire hour and a half drive, I'm just talking to myself on the way back. And I've had some heated discussions with myself talking about Carolina. Before we do talk about Carolina, I do want to say one last thing about Jarkel Joyner. Fourth game of 25 points and no turnovers. NC State's 3-1 in those games. The one game was the terrible loss at Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And his ninth game with 0 turnovers. NC State is 7-2 in those games. Jarkel Joyner, by the way, has 1,935 career points. He is well on his way to 2,000. He only needs to, I say only, but he needs to average 21.7 over the next 3 if he wants to get in the regular season. So fingers crossed he does it. But all right, so let's talk about Carolina real quick.
Well, I want to add too, reference why Miami was a terrible loss was because NC State should have won that game. So you mentioned the one loss being at Miami. That was the game NC State had a double-digit lead. And quite frankly, if a charge block call goes a different way on Jack Clark on one end of the court, and then a low percentage three-point shooter makes a long three as the shot clock was expiring right after that, you're talking about a 5-6 point swing right there that really turned the game for Miami. So just for some context to what you were talking about.
Yeah. So let's talk about Carolina. So here's the thing. I don't think that this team is as far. This is going to sound really weird. This is one of my personal thoughts. I don't think this team is as far away from the tournament as people like to say, but at the same time, I don't think they're as close as people like to say. My argument being is, everybody throughout the college basketball world, the Lenardis, the Matt Norlanders, the Gary Parrish, all those guys are saying that the ACC is down, that the ACC is bad. Personally, I don't think that the ACC is that bad. Sure, the bottom half is really, really bad, like Louisville, sure. But is the ACC bad actually, or is it bad because Duke and Carolina aren't great and people just don't know how to cover other teams? Duke's going to make the tournament. You know, I think that people are just harping on the fact that Carolina and Duke aren't what they used to be right now, at least. And so they don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know what to do with their hands. They're like Ricky Bobby. And so here's the thing. How can you tell me, and these are y'all's words, how can you tell me that the ACC is bad, but in order for Carolina to make the tournament, they have to beat the ACC? They have no good wins. I don't really think of.
They did beat NC State. They did beat NC State in Chapel Hill.
They beat NC State. They beat NC State in Chapel Hill. They get that one. Kudos. Still 0 for 9, I believe, in the quad one.
They must have lost the quad one game because they're now 0-8.
0-8. Okay, so 0-8 in quad one. It's just not enough. I view them like I view Clemson. You know, you have some good wins, sure, but you have some horrible, terrible losses, and it's just not enough. It's amazing to me that people really think that this team is on the bubble.
Let me tell you this. The reason why I kind of push back against Carolina terrible, this is just speaking, we're not a UNC podcast, so I'm not going to diagnose what's wrong with UNC.
Yeah.
But if you think UNC is terrible, then you're saying NC State got away with one. Because NC State was down 6. And if you think UNC is terrible, you're trying to say NC State was down 6 to a terrible team with about 8-9 minutes to go and had to pull one out of their butt. And I don't look at it that way. I think UNC is a team that, I might disagree with you. I don't think they have any bad losses. I don't know, maybe at Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech has beaten Virginia. They've beaten Pittsburgh at home.
That's a tough place to play regardless, too.
Yeah, they beat Duke at home. And I think that was the game Carolina had like 3 guys out that particular game. So I feel like Carolina they just lack a great win. That's why I like what you said. Everybody says the ACC down. I've actually done the research. You know what the ACC's record against the Big Ten is this year?
Oh, yeah, let's hear it.
13-12.
Not bad for the best, conference in the league.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to hype up.
Yeah. Now the Big 12 and ACC only went 2-5. Kansas State came close to making it 3-4 against Kansas. Couldn't quite pull it out. But I mean, if that game, you're talking about number 1 seed versus a team in an 8-9 game, and the ACC team right now in the 8-9 game, if it wasn't for a few 3-pointers at the end of the shot clock that proved to be the difference, and then we're talking about basically a 500 record against the so-called best conference, which they probably are, by the way. I'm not disputing the Big 12 might not be the best conference. 1-2 against the Pac-12. The SEC, admittedly, is the conference that the ACC struggled against. They went 3-9 against the SEC. But Pitt lost at the buzzer to Vanderbilt, who, by the way, kudos to Vanderbilt. They might end up being NC State's best non-conference win. They won 5 in a row, I think, in the SEC. They're now like 8-6 in the SEC. Beat Tennessee at home. Beat Auburn at home. So let's say
I'm gonna throw a flag on that play because I'm still in love with my Paladins over there at Furman. They're doing their thing in the SoCon. But
until they lost to the Citadel, which really hurt NC State, by the way.
Hey, that's okay. You know, it's no big deal.
I thought Furman might get up to quad 2 status. I think they were like 82 in the net. They just needed 7 more, and they're going the road to the Citadel, who I think I can pull it up. The Citadel at that point had 8 wins and is 325 in the net and lost.
They're just making things interesting, Matt. That's it. That's all.
So as a
they don't want to run away with the title.
Now Furman's 90 in the net, and that chance of getting the top 75 probably went away. But actually, Dayton's still the highest rated non-conference win. But in Carolina, the team on the bubble, maybe, generously speaking, took the SEC's best team to 4 overtimes on a neutral court.
Yeah.
So let's say
might be the nation's best team. Alabama's looking legit.
Yeah. So let's say Pitt doesn't lose that game at the buzzer at Vanderbilt, who just beat Tennessee and Auburn both, by the way, at the buzzer on their home court. And let's say Carolina doesn't win one of those 4 overtimes. All of a sudden, the ACC is 5-7 against the SEC. And so, if my point is the ACC is not near as far away as people want them to be. And my last point on the ACC, here's a sneaky thing that really hurts the ACC. Quentin Post being hurt for Boston College. He missed like 13 games at the outset of the year. Ever since he's been back, BC's been pretty damn good. I think they're like 7-6 when Quentin Post, and all in ACC games. And they lost to Duke at the buzzer on one of those games. If Quentin Post had played the whole year, BC doesn't have those like 3 or 4 bad losses that were real close losses. They don't happen to like Maine and New Hampshire and those schools. And they're not 184 in the net. They're probably like 100 in the net. And that makes a humongous difference because now we're just talking about Louisville and maybe Florida State. And by the way, Florida State, if they don't have that like Mack truck of adversity that hit them right before the season started, where they lost their best transfer to the season to injury, and then another kid gets declared ineligible, and then a few games into the year they lost a double-digit score to injury. My long-winded saying of the ACC is not as far away as people, but they love right now. They're the whipping boys of college basketball.
Well, which is funny too, because I'm sitting up at the top, and oh my God, man, let me tell you, I'm watching this game, and all I see in front of me, because they got these big, TV screens in front of you, I just see Joe Lunardi's face for like a good 10, 15
talking about
minutes.
a PNC Arena? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, man, get this guy out of my face right now. And he put his numbers of teams that are, he thinks that are going to get into the tournament. And, I think it was either the Big 10 or Big 12. They had 9, which is insane. And then just 3 spots down below it is the ACC with 5. I mean, if you can get 5 teams in your conference, how can you sit there and say that that's bad? That's pretty damn good. I mean, sure, it's not ACC numbers, but you're still, according to Lunardi, they're the 4th the fourth best conference in terms of teams they think that's going to get in, and that doesn't include Carolina. Who says Carolina can't go on a run and they somehow get their way in? Now you got 6. Now you just jump the board again. It's not a ACC is bad conversation. It's Carolina's not as good as people think or thought, and now they just don't know what to do, and now they're discrediting the whole league, which I think is just lazy, honestly.
And Duke is not as good as normal. They're in the tournament, but they're probably in as like a 7th seed type, and versus the normal top 3 whatever seed.
Well, let's talk about the best team in the state of North Carolina, and that is NC State and their tournament chances. What do you think is the ceiling here for them?
Right now, they're good. My only concern about NC State is it's a resume that not from their fault. It's like it's a nice stacked up resume, but it's like on a Jenga, right? And if one piece gets pulled out, all of a sudden it can crumble a little bit. And the only reason I say that is they got 2 quad 1 wins now. One of them is Duke, who's 29 in the net. If Duke slips 2 spots, that home win is no longer quad 1, and now you're down to 1 quad 1 win, which is Virginia Tech on the road, who's not going to be in the NCAA tournament. And quite frankly, they're 64 in the net. So if they lose a couple more times, who's to say they won't fall out of quad 1 status? That's what worries me. On the flip side of that, Miami's 31. All they got to do is rise up 1 spot. They play on the road against somebody, Virginia Tech, on Tuesday night. If they win that game, I suspect they're probably back in the top 30, and that's a quad 1. Here's the weird thing. Wake Forest beats NC State. NC State would actually gain a quad 1 win probably, because Wake Forest is 77 in the net. They need to be top 75 to get up to quad 1 status.
So what you're saying is we need State to lose.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is,
could you imagine that? Like, how weird is the net? You're sitting here like possibly rooting against your own team, man. Gosh, the net, man. It's just so funny how it works.
Yeah. Somebody on our board put this analogy. I heard Steve Forbes yesterday at the ACC teleconference for Wake Forest head coach. He said, we beat Georgia Tech and we fell like 6 or 7 spots, and Georgia Tech rose 8 spots. And I actually don't mind that, because you were top 75 and Georgia Tech was below 200, and you beat them on 2 free throws with 5 seconds to go. And somebody on the board used this analogy, and you're a former baseball player, you understand. The net is like you won the game. So that's like saying you went 3 for 4 at the plate during the game. And one of your hits was a really nice, solid hit. But you're a left-handed pull hitter, and the defense shifted over on you, and 2 of your hits were weak ground balls where there was no third baseman because the defense shifted. So did you really have a good day at the plate, or did you get really lucky?
Yeah.
And I think that's what the net is like. The net is like, you got to win, but you played a bad team at home and you barely won and got lucky. So we're not going to reward you. But
it's very fluctuated. Like it's constantly an up and down until the very last game. You don't have a really good feel of your team, because I mean, State could go on a run here and really jump up the rankings, or they could just keep coasting by, getting some solid wins here and there. But it's just such an up and down movement that I don't think a lot of people grasp, because they see like a Ohio State team. I believe it was like mid-January or something. I think I saw them in the top 50 or 60 in the net, and Ohio State's not good. So it's just one of those weird. The net's weird. There's no other way to put it. It's weird. It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. But I think if you're NC State, you're hoping for this. You beat Wake Forest, but maybe you don't beat the bejesus out of them. You don't want to make it nervous or anything like that. But maybe do what Miami did, which kind of keep a nice 5 to 8 point cushion the whole game. And Wake Forest didn't fall after that game on the road at Miami.
So where do you let's play the what if game. right now, I believe most brackets have NC State as an 8 seed. From what I've seen, I've seen a couple with 7 seed. I think they still need to kind of do some stuff here and there. Let's just say they're an 8 seed. Okay, is this a first round exit team? Is this a possible upset in the second round? Is this a Sweet 16 team? What is your thought right now? You have no idea who we're playing. What do you think this team is?
I think the team that if they are an 8-9 game, the 1 seed head coach is probably having a few sleepless nights, worried about getting that team in the second round because he knows that team. Look, Kansas right now is a 1 seed, and Kansas knows full well on a neutral court that NC State went toe-to-toe with them on that court. And every head coach, it obviously depends on matchups. Right? Purdue probably wouldn't be a great matchup for NC State because they could neutralize DJ Burns in the post. But most teams are going to say, how do we guard DJ Burns and also guard that backcourt? And if those guys are hitting their shots, we're going to have to outscore them. And by the way, they're really good at creating turnovers on defense. Can we hold on to the basketball against these guys? So they would make life miserable. Right now, bracketmatrix.com surveyed 95 brackets. It's updated as of this morning. NC State's actually technically a 9 seed when you add it all up. So,
wow. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like the lowest seed I'm seeing. One has them as an 11 seed. There are a few. I see a 2 as an 11 seed, and then I see a handful of 7. So they're pretty much probably more 10s than 7s. So I would say mostly 8-9 is pretty much right.
Yeah. I would like to do everything we can to not be an 8-9 seed. While I say that, though, I think an Alabama-NC State matchup in the next round would be really fun, possibly game of the tournament. But whatever we can do to get out of the 8-9 seed, I'm going to be a fan of. If we can move up to the 7 seed, let's say we're a 7 seed, I'm a believer that guards win in March, and I will take our guards along with Northwestern's, TCU's, those types of teams. I'll take those guards against pretty much everybody. And if we get hot, that's what March is about. If you get hot at the right moment, this team, to me, depending on the seeding, could easily be a Sweet 16 team lock, in my opinion. And like I said, depending on who we get, I could see this team going to the Elite 8. I just think that there's too many offensive options. And who would have thought we'd be saying this at the beginning of the season, by the way? Let's just take a step back and realize that we're saying these things out loud right now.
The only caution is when you do the NC State type of guards are streaky guards. And that's when you're in the one and done format. If you were to get on a neutral court where they're not familiar with the settings, and all of a sudden Joyner and Smith combined to go 5 for 25 from the court. What was the game they both played really poorly in and scored single digits?
I remember the Pitt game that Clark and Joyner were, I believe, 0 for 21. So
the Georgia Tech game. The Georgia Tech game, both Smith and Joyner were held in single digits.
Yeah.
You got away with it because it was Georgia Tech. You're not going to get away with it in an NCAA.
So is this a loss of a season if they go into the tournament and lose first round? Is that considered a disappointing season?
If somebody would have considered that a disappointing season, then they would have to have their brain examined. So that's my opinion.
Okay. Why do you feel that way?
Because you got to look where NC State came from. You had a 21-loss season a year ago. There were probably 2,000 fans in the stands for some of those early games at PNC Arena. You've already had more fun this season than many years of NC State basketball. If you're going to hang it all on a one-and-done tournament format where crazy stuff happened all the time, who went to the Elite 8 last year? St. Peter's? Was it St. Peter's? They beat Kentucky, who my sweet daughter had winning the national championship in her bracket in the first round. So crazy stuff happens. You just can't.
Right.
So I'm not gonna.
I
To me, the
I
season's
don't know.
over.
I think for Keats, by the way, I just want to give a quick shout out to how gangster of a move that was at the post game, and he said, "Well, it's not a rivalry. Why would I care?" That was an elite answer. Keats likes to talk coach talk in those questions, but that was kind of a
Yeah, and
I'm
that
gonna,
was
I'm
a
gonna get some
jab
off
at
my
I think
chest.
it was Caleb Love for UNC late in the week.
Yeah, well, it was Caleb Love. It was Drake May. It was Baycott. I mean, they all say it, so whatever. But that was a good move by Keats. But I think that Keats won a lot of people over this season, and especially in that moment. I think that will be kind of a prove it kind of thing. Like, all right, you've done some great, phenomenal work, and it has shown how good he can be getting the guys that he needs to fit his system. I think I don't know. I'm kind of on the boat that I need to see at least just one win. Let Keats get that over that hump. Obviously going from a horrible year last year to where we are now. I remember somebody mentioned in the post game that you had 21 losses last year. You had 21 wins this year. Complete turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe myself and other NC State fans are just being a little greedy. We just want to see even more.
Like
And
that's
look,
what
I'm
they
not.
say. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Carolina fans, Carolina fans were complaining about the stadium series being an NC State infomercial. It's like
Oh my God, yeah.
it was in Carter Finley Stadium. What would you? Joe Giglio said on the radio.
Next time we do that. Sorry, go ahead.
Joe Giglio said on the radio, it's like they want everything, and that's
Yeah.
they feel like they're
Yeah.
entitled to everything. But go ahead.
Next time we'll shave off the NC State symbols off the stadium and remove all of that. But yeah, no, it's just I don't know. I think if we really are seeing the turn of the tide right now, and this is a little early on this talk because Carolina's having a bad year, their first one without Roy, and then Duke doesn't look like Duke. If we're seeing the turn of the tide at some point, you got to turn that tide, and I think if you really want to be taken seriously as a program, like you got to do some damage in March. Like we've seen it all year. Yeah. So
but
I think it depends on how they lose. That's how we should ask the question. Not if they lose, but how they lose. If you remember under Keats in his first year when they lost in the first round, they did not look very good in that game. That's kind of why a lot of people are really off the Keats bandwagon. So if they go in there and they just get a tough pull and they just play their butts off, then so be it. But if they go in there and just lay an egg, that's going to be the one that's like, all right, this was kind of a disappointing season, at least a little bit.
I would push back. I would say that's just, hey, like that first season, for instance. Again, you just had the worst 2-year stretch in NC State basketball history.
Very true.
You made it to the NCAA tournament. And by the way, you played a Seton Hall team that was top 25 most of the year. And when you broke down that team, I remember telling my coworker at the time, this is a really, really tough match. They drew the worst 8 seed to draw in the tournament. And then Seton Hall came this close to beating the 1 seed in the next game. That was an extremely talented Seton Hall team that if they had played up to their potential, probably would have been a top 16 overall seed in one of the 1 through 4. So, again, I can't get mad because they drew a tough 8-9 assignment. I don't consider that laying an egg. I consider that, oh, crap, they ran into a really good team that we just have to acknowledge was better than them. And NC State overachieved all year.
Had a hell of a year.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about this year. You got some of your best memories in recent years. You said you never heard PNC Arena that loud.
That I rewatched the game a couple of times, like I always do, and I still will get chills and goosebumps. I mean, when Joyner threw that dunk down, I mean, holy crap!
You were there in Winston-Salem. When was the last time NC State came back like that to win a game on the road?
Yeah, no, in that fashion, no, never.
When was the last time you saw NC State just jump out to a 22-2 lead? At one point, it was like 33-10 on Duke. at home.
Well, I can't say that, but I'm not gonna lie. Over the years, I'm getting kind of used to beating the doors off of Duke.
Yeah.
they played some good basketball against Duke.
Or the Miami overtime game. How much fun was
Yeah.
that? You had so much fun this year.
I don't like how many points you're making right now. These are some rock solid points, and I hate you for it. I don't know, man. I want to see
agree
more
with you.
DJ Burns. I want to see more Joyner. I want Terquavion to, raise his NBA stock. And it's a fun team. It's a fun team, and I would hate for the fun to end in one game. That would suck.
If you're in an 8-9 game, you could very well find yourself playing a Seton Hall-like team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a tough match. That's why I don't think you can put too much on the mark. I do want to talk about the tournament before that, though, the ACC tournament. I want to run down the teams real quick because we're getting ahead of ourselves. Wake Forest.
We are, aren't we?
Wake Forest on Wednesday is a hard game. I don't want people to think that Wake Forest can beat anybody in the ACC. And I watched that Wake Forest-Miami game. They played Miami about as well as anybody down in Coral Gables. Right now, Miami's just scoring at an elite level. We do ACC power rankings every week for a subscriber. Spoiler alert, both match had Miami number 1 in the ACC at this point. And I didn't even think about it. I just immediately put Miami.
Yeah.
In the past, it's been like Virginia, Miami. Who did I put? This was good. Miami. Yeah, that's easy. And Wake Forest did have NC State beat in Winston-Salem until Beast Bones took over the game with Matt Coe wearing the shades, just 31 and 9 or whatever it was, and Wake fans went from chanting Whopper to nothing by the end of the game. So still got a big Wake. I'm going to have a desperate Clemson team coming to
They need that win. They need that win.
Yeah, they're off the bubble right now. Any chance to get back on the bubble require a win at NC State. And I would argue of all the ACC games, only Virginia comes close to doing what Clemson did to NC State in Clemson. But that was not a competitive game for NC State.
Right.
Then you got to go to Duke, who's got back-to-back blowout wins, and all of a sudden they're 11-6 in the ACC. Now, one of them was against Louisville, so that doesn't count too much. But they did dismantle Syracuse by like 20-some points in the Dome.
Yep.
So how would you kind of stack up these last 3 games? And because if NC State wins all 3, quite possible they could get a double bye in the ACC tournament. Then I want to ask you a question about the ACC tournament after that.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I love the fact that we get 2 of the core 4 of Wake and Duke. I think that if there's a way that the ACC could always make it that the last 4 games of the season is Carolina, Wake, Duke, in some order like that, keep it up. I love that. So, look, I think that I'm not terribly worried about – I can't say that. Wake's a good team. I'm not going to – I love Steve Forbes. I think he's a great coach. That's probably the one game that I'm most confident about out of the 3. Like you said in the Clemson game, I just think we got outcoached. I think we got outplayed. Like you said, it wasn't very competitive at all. I feel a lot better about that one. Duke is probably the one at Duke, I think, is the one that worries me the most. Finishing on the road. Duke, I mean, sure, they're a tournament team, but if they want to get off that 8-9 seed, they kind of need that win as well. So there's a lot riding on these last couple of games because Wake for now just doesn't seem like they're going to be in the tournament. But if they sneak out a couple of wins, they're desperate. Clemson, they're desperate. Duke isn't necessarily desperate, but they're hungry. So it's a tough stretch. I'm looking forward to that Duke game to see if we can really close out the season on a high note. But as far as Wake goes, out of the 3, I just think that you saw it. We're going to see something different in this one. Steve Forbes is going to have a plan for DJ Burns, so don't think that
he already announced it at his ACC teleconference that he said they're working on some different things to try to defend
yeah,
this time.
Yeah, no, that's a good plan. That's a great place to start. So I think the guards are probably going to have to win you this one. And, we just hyped up Tyree Appleby and how great he's been. So it's going to be a fun one for sure. And they won 79-77, I think was the score in Winston-Salem. I expect it to be close, but I still think that State gets the dub.
Yeah. Wake has been an interesting team. Like they're kind of they and Virginia Tech are kind of the enigmas of the ACC. I kind of feel like Clemson was living the good life for a long time and kind of came back in the ACC. They've lost, I think, 5 or 6 in the ACC. And when they were 10-1 in the ACC, 4 of those wins were by 3 points or less. 2 of them at the buzzer. And quite frankly, they had a very home favorable schedule in the sense that the tougher teams came to Clemson, versus Clemson having to go on the road to play them. I would say Wake Forest does tend to be a different team home versus away. They beat Duke at home, lost to them, albeit only by 2 points on the road. Crushed Carolina at home. It ended up being closer than the score indicated, but got their butt whipped by UNC on the road. Crushed Clemson at home, but got crushed by Clemson on the road. So you're kind of seeing a pattern of a team that tends to play much better at home than they do on the road. I kind of feel like Clemson of the 3, which should be maybe that's going to be senior day at NC State. Jarkel Joyner's last game for sure. Who knows about the others? They're going to want that revenge. And that's kind of important because I don't think you want to say you got swept by Clemson if you're presenting a case to the NCAA tournament. So if I had to rank it, I actually think Duke is the best matchup for NC State, but it is at Cameron, and they're going to be out for blood because they got their butt whooped in Raleigh. So kind of a toss-up from Duke and Wake is toughest for me, and then Clemson. What team do you not want to see in the ACC tournament?
Man, what a question. Okay, so I definitely don't want to see Syracuse. I don't like our numbers against the zone. We shoot 5% less against zone defenses from the 3, just right at 30%. So as long as we can avoid a zone, I'm good. But Syracuse is up on that list. I think I agree with you when it comes to Virginia Tech, how they're that pesky kind of like fly that just kind of won't go away.
Yeah.
And then I'll say Wake Forest because of the fact that it's in Greensboro. I think in both matchups we played well against Carolina, well enough to win both games. I think we're a better team than Carolina. I've been very vocal about that. I think that we're a better team than Duke. We showed that in the first one, and that atmosphere would be crazy. But Wake Forest neutral, I'm watching that one. I'm a little, at home. I like us at home, but on a neutral, that one's kind of, we'll see. But Syracuse is probably on the top of my list there.
Syracuse's high on my list. I'll tell you a sneaky team. Georgia Tech. I also agree with you about Virginia Tech. But Georgia Tech, their style, you mentioned the great point, the great numbers on the zone defense. Georgia Tech runs the zone defense a lot too. Just a 1-3-1. And they also run that Princeton style with some elements of the Princeton offense that really works well against that aggressive NC State defense. And Kevin Keats bluntly admitted that's kind of one of the kryptonite to his defensive styles is the backdoor cutting type teams. I felt like both games against Georgia Tech was way tougher than they probably were expected to be. And quietly, they're playing well lately, Georgia Tech. So that's my – because that would be a bad loss in an ACC tournament. So that'd be a really bad loss.
Well, they're flirting with the 4 seed there, possibly getting a double bye. I think that would do wonders for this team if they got a double bye.
Yeah. And here's how that would work, by the way, for those who are wondering if NC State could beat Clemson. Let's say NC State wins out. That includes a win over Clemson. Then at worst, they would tie with Clemson. And because Miami had leaped past Pittsburgh, that gives NC State a tiebreaker over Clemson. But essentially, if NC State wins out, and then you kind of hope that Miami stays above Pittsburgh, then you get the double bye. That's the short way of it. That's kind of the only way, though, to get that. And that would set you up. If you're the 5 seed or the 4 seed, if you're the 5 seed, you got to play the winner of the 12-13 game in the first round in the second round of the tournament, which would be Florida State or Georgia Tech. Which is why I brought up Georgia Tech as a team. I don't think NC State wants to play in the ACC tournament. If you're a 4 seed, then the 5 seed would have to play that game, and then you would play them next in the double bye, and then in the semifinals, presumably would play 1 seed, whether that's Virginia or Miami. So a lot of fun stuff to talk about. We will be at Winston-Salem. Correction. Not going to be in Winston-Salem.
Don't go to Winston-Salem.
That would be a really embarrassing thing. 9 o'clock tip Wednesday. They're honoring the 83 team during the game. Tickets are still available. It kind of surprises me, to be honest with you. I would have thought after Carolina, the remaining 2 games would quickly sell out. But
yeah,
again, I think that's a college basketball issue as much as anything. For instance, you can still buy tickets to Virginia, North Carolina on Saturday. So it's not just NC State. But we'll be there. We'll have complete coverage of the game afterwards, and then senior day, Saturday, Clemson, noon tip, much better than the 9 o'clock tip on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So and then after that, you'll win both of those games, and we can really start talking about where they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. So any closing thoughts, Matt, before I take care of the house business?
No, not really. I'm ready to get these glasses off. I don't know how DJ Burns does this. I can't see anything right now.
You know the story
and he's
behind
got the hair in his face.
You know why DJ Burns wore those sunglasses, by the way?
Yeah, he got swiped in the eye against Clemson, right?
Duke.
Oh, was it Duke? Okay. No, Clemson was the Jack Clark injury. Okay. Well.
Yeah, so
these things I can't see nothing. I do want to mention Paul McNeil signed big signing.
Yeah.
I actually hit him up on Twitter the day he went on his visit.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy that I really wanted, so I'm very, very excited about that. And if they can bring back some guys from this year's squad, I don't know. We'll see with the whole NIL and possibilities of that. But Paul McNeil is a great addition. Great addition. I'm really excited about that one.
Yep. Class of 2024, consensus 4-star. So he's got the first sophomore ever to win Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of North Carolina. Having a big junior season right now for Richmond. I appreciate the fact that he's kind of going for now at least, the Taquavion Smith route of staying loyal to his local public school and not going to one of these,
basketball schools.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I'm not trying to downplay Trey Parker, signed with NC State, will be at NC State next year. He kind of took that route. That's fine. I just have a soft spot in my heart for those who are loyal. And I think you see him. Look, Taquavion Smith has been loyal to NC State. He came back for another year, even though he could have been drafted last year. I think your odds of player retention goes up when you recruit these guys who have shown loyalty at the high school level. So it's just something to think about. But tremendous score from all accounts. A very good fit for Kevin Keith's system and a consensus top 50 player in that 2024 class. So that's a very good get. He was one of, I think, 5 visitors that day. So
they had a number. They had a number of them.
Yeah.
And it was a hell of a day to visit. So
yeah. The list is on the Wolfpacker.com. They'll go to the State of Basketball message board, and it's on there. And if you're not on it, just pay $29.99, and you'll get that information and everything else through the end of August. How about that? That is a sell. Also, Please follow us on Twitter at the Wolfpacker. You can follow Matt Coe at _Matt Coe. Right? Is that right?
Yep. Okay. Yeah, you got it.
Facebook, the Wolfpacker. YouTube / the Wolfpacker. And also, you can get this podcast wherever you listen to your podcast, wherever they may be. We also do some post-game recordings after wins or losses at home. I'm working on trying to edit those things so you don't see me hitting record at the start of the video. But okay, I'm 43 years old.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, I know. I'm about to be 43. That's not my MO. Last but not least, please check out our sponsors, rogueshop.com. I mentioned them at the outset of the show. Husband and wife small business. They sell natural cannabis products. They're perfectly legal. They're perfectly safe. And they can maybe help you out with some of your chronic pain or anxiety or sleep deprivation, whatever the case may be. Check them out at rogueshop.com. They're online. They're willing to chat with you. They help you out and try to find what might best fit your needs. They're on our message board. Do they have any questions there? They've been great supporters of the Wolfpacker.com, and we want to support them as well. So for Matt Coe, I'm Matt Carter. This has been MC Squared. It's been a great one because I got Matt Coe to admit that I made some good points. I don't think he's ever said that on the podcast. So we're going to end it on that note. Till next time.
There we go.